Get lost. We say this to everyone who wants to visit Lisbon. This is the city of narrow streets and endless neighborhoods of cuteness. The first time we visited Lisbon, we were in absolute awe. There's always something beautiful, interesting and tasty around every new corner you turn.
Go to basically any Portuguese coffee place or kiosk and get a bica. It's an espresso that the locals drink as if they're M&Ms. It's not for everyone as it's very strong, but understanding the local coffee culture should be on your to-do list. You have to try literally the world's best pastry, a pastel de nata. Even if you aren't into pastries and sweets, you will become addicted immediately.
That's hot.
Get one at the Santo Antonio pastry shop. And speaking of Santo Antonio, make an effort to visit Lisbon the 12th of June, where you find Europe's greatest street party with rivers of beer, sardines and happy people. The whole month of June is in the name of partying, where the 12th is the biggest day.
Go for a walk along the Tejo River, where you can enjoy scenic views to the big red bridge, the life on the water and the endless people watching. Consider having a drink at Sud. Walk all the way to the Belém Tower, which is one of Lisbon's most iconic landmarks. Back in the day, prisoners were kept in the basement where the high tide would sometimes drown them. Seeing Lisbon from the water is truly the way to go, so book yourself a cruise with champagne and wine. When the sun shines, nothing beats it. And even when it doesn't, it's still a great experience.
Go get yourself the iconic Lisbon bifana at As Bifanas do Afonso. It's cheap and the deliciousness correlates to the amount of mustard and chili you add. Have literally the best ranked sardines in Lisbon at the Floresta Escadinhas restaurant. Even if sardines are not your jam, you need to try it. Enjoy a sunset drink at Lumi Rooftop. We have spent so much time here, we have our own table. Okay, not really, but we should. Enjoy the works of Mother Earth in perhaps Lisbon's coziest garden, Jardim da Estrela, where you have little kiosks that serve coffee, snacks and drinks while you enjoy the lush nature surrounding you. Guys, in the description below you find all the information on all these amazing things to do in Lisbon. We've also made an interactive Lisbon guide with over 150 things to do. It's a goldmine of insider knowledge, whether you want the best restaurants, hotels, museums worth going to, rooftop bars, and much more. In our guide, each attraction comes to life with photos and immersive videos that teleport you straight to the heart of the experience. Additionally, we share insider tips and nice to know info on each thing to do. We even have a 1, 3, 5, 7 and 10 day itinerary that ensures you get the most out of your visit to Lisbon. With our guide available both on smartphone and laptop, we guarantee that your trip to Lisbon can't get any better, as you simply will discover the city as a local. Use our code Lisbon to get 30% off, and you can scan the QR code right here or find the link down below. Let's explore some more of Lisbon.
Eat Indian food here in Lisbon, guys. And if you want a modern take on amazing Indian food, go here to Chutneyfy. It's super delicious.
I've never been to India, but it tastes like India. When you visit Lisbon, you have to stay at least one time here at Portuguese Liberdade Hotel. We stay here every single time we visit Lisbon, and it is our favorite hotel. It is just smack bang in the middle with shopping everywhere, and that's why Amelia's not here right now. Amelia!
How are you?
We can't afford to stay here because of your shopping.
It's H&M, Jon. One thing you need to do when you visit Lisbon is to go and eat the Portuguese food. And right here at Bistro 4, you get the best petiscos.
Before we address this table, I have to address the wine, because this might be one of the best red wines I've ever had in Portugal, and that says a lot. So rather than big portions, you get a lot of different stuff. Like if you want to taste Portugal, you come to this restaurant, and the quality is so high.
This looks like something from a commercial.
But it's just a YouTube video.
Go to Embaixada in Prince Priel, where you have a wonderful selection of Portuguese clothing shops. Here you really get to appreciate the quality and design of Portuguese handcraft. It's located in a palace, which makes the whole experience more than just a potential shopping spree. Speaking of Portuguese arts and craft, LX Factory should also be on your to-do list. It's a place to come for food and drinks, but certainly also shopping, whether you want quirky things or actual furnitures and decoration for your house.
Since Lisbon is the city of 7 hills, you will walk up and down quite a lot, so why not reward yourself with top-notch massage? Eco Massage couldn't be more central, where we recently went for an hour-long couples massage. The pure 5-star reviews say it all, and at €60 for 60 minutes, it's quite affordable. On a warm and sunny day, bring a cold bottle of wine to the beautiful Turrell Garden. It's a great place to hang out, and during summer you can swim in the public pool right next to it. If you feel adventurous, go to Guincho Beach near Cascais. It's a 45-minute drive west of Lisbon, where you get to enjoy a wonderful beach right next to the westernmost point of continental Europe. There are lots of excellent seafood restaurants nearby, and it will add a cool dimension to your Lisbon trip. While you're in Cascais, consider having the best sushi in perhaps all of Portugal at Capo Restaurant, where the tasting menu is a must to have. This is like eating sushi at a legit place in Japan, but don't forget your wallet.
But what about when it rains in Lisbon? What are you gonna do? Number 1, get a coffee indoors.
Can you prove it that the hugs are free?
Yeah. Okay.
That's it?
Do you guys need sugar?
How do I look?
Familiar.
Here in Lisbon, there's a lot of good coffee, but we gotta admit that here at Simply is the best coffee we have had. Along with Simply Coffee, Numa Cafe is also one of our favorite spots to get the day started. If you don't drink milk and prefer oat lattes like we do, they have the Oatly Barista, which is quite rare for any coffee place in Lisbon. Yes, rain is not uncommon for Lisbon, especially not during winter, but luckily there are tons of exciting museums to explore. What about the National Coach Museum, where you find an incredible selection of carriages from our past world of transportation? The Pharmacy Museum is perhaps the most interesting one, where you get such a fascinating insights to how our perception of medicine and pills have changed over the years, how cigarettes used to be recommended by doctors, as well as hilarious ad campaigns for prevention. On Tuesdays and Saturdays, you have the wonderful flea market of Feira da Lada. Although you definitely can find some good stuff, we generally just come here for the atmosphere, the people, and of course, browsing the many stands. The vendors like to overcharge, so don't be afraid of negotiating the price.
And while you're at it, make sure to peek inside the National Pantheon, which is one of the most beautiful churches in Lisbon. Our very first time visiting Lisbon, we stayed in an Airbnb with this marvelous view that doesn't get much better. On Saturdays, you have the farmers market at the charming neighborhood of Principial. It's fairly small, but the selection of stands is quite interesting, as you find many kinds of arts, crafts, and delicacies. Have dinner at our all-time favorite Lisbon restaurant, A Nossa Casa. It's located in the charming neighborhood of Bairro Alto, where you're treated by the lovely couple and owners Antonio and Natasha, who serve crazy good food that is best described as a creative mix of Portuguese and Brazilian cuisine. And after an amazing dinner, you can go on a bar crawl also here in Bairro Alto. This is where the party is on, and while it can get a little rough around the edges, it's a fun place for a night out. Do watch out for pickpockets though.
Not far from Bairro Alto, you have Pink Street, which is also a great place to have drinks if your goal is to have a boozy night with a majestic hangover the next day. None of the bars are anything special, but there's usually a good vibe, decent music, and lots of people. One of our all-time favorite cocktail bars is Foxtrot. It's a tasteful Art Nouveau cellar bar with excellent cocktails and a cool metropolitan vibe where you feel like you're one of the cool cats. Did you know that if you drive across the marvelous bridge of Lisbon, you have a 20-kilometer stretch of white sand beaches? We go there every time we have a chance. There are loads of beach bars, restaurants, and clubs as far as the eye can reach. If you like surfing or just want to try it, this is also a great place to do it. Send a message to Surf Lisbon, who offers surfing for whatever level you are.
You don't even have to cross the bridge to go to the beach. From Cais do Sodré train station, you can take a 15-minute direct train to Praia de Carcavelos, where a wide 1 kilometer long sand beach is all yours. Lots of people come here, and during warm weekends it's packed with sun-loving people and happy vibes. One of our favorite Portuguese restaurants in Lisbon is called Pabe. This is where politicians and noblemen have enjoyed typical Portuguese food for decades. It's like stepping into a pocket of forgotten times where only class and elegance are the accepted norm. One of our latest discoveries in terms of saliva-inducing Portuguese food is called com certeza, which means with certainty. The restaurant is never full because the kitchen is simply too small to handle handle all the tables they have, so don't be mad if they tell you they're too busy. Everything is made from scratch on the spot, and it's worth the wait.
Whether you're into fancy shopping or just window peeking, a stroll down the beautiful Avenida de Liberdade is a must. It's Lisbon's answer to Champs-Élysées of Paris. And even if you don't care about shopping, it's worth coming here just for the walk and a couple of drinks at one of the charming kiosks. Most tourists go to the Time Out Market, where you have tons of food stands. And while it's not terrible, we like to suggest the smaller and much more charming Camp de Ric market. Here you have plenty of restaurants, bars and delicacy shops in a more local setting. It's a great place to hang out, and the neighborhood of Camp de Ric has lots to offer.
For instance, the cemetery is quite fascinating with hundreds of mausoleums that honor the dead. Some of these are the size of a studio apartment, and we always wonder if and how the families can afford paying for the eternal upkeep and maintenance. Here in Camp de Ric, we love having a big fat lunch at Obitok, where the menu is like a hit list for classic Portuguese dishes. You can't have a more local Portuguese dining experience than this. There are so many gems in Lisbon when it comes to Portuguese restaurants. When we lived in Ajuda, we would go to Mestria several times a week. The food never disappoints. Make sure to get the pica-pau. Taberna dos Ferreiros in Belém is another one of our go-to joints with always wonderful food served by the two Portuguese brothers who run the place. Literally everything on the menu is excellent.
Every Sunday from October to April, you'll find the most Portuguese dish, cozido a portuguesa, at Zanzibar restaurant. It's so delicious, and finding this particular dish is not easy, so make an effort to go. Zé da Moraria is also one of our favorite classic Portuguese restaurants. The atmosphere and vibe don't get more Portuguese, and that of course also goes for the food. Get a dorada with potatoes here to reach true happiness.
While we take a break from the food scene, let's go for a walk at the stunning Eduardo Park. Here you get to enjoy one of our favorite views in Lisbon. Throughout the year, you also have various events in this park, with the Christmas market being the highlight. While you're here, you must go for a walk inside Estufa Fria, which is a huge greenhouse with endless varieties of exotic plants, waterfalls and water features. It's basically an indoor botanical garden with a unique, relaxed vibe and an interesting story. In the modern neighborhood of Parque das Nações, a 10-minute drive from Praça do Comércio, you get to see a completely different side of Lisbon. Here you have the stunning Orient train station, loads of eateries, a giant shopping mall and even Michelin restaurants. It's a place where you come without a specific errand, as the goal is simply to explore. This is also where you find Europe's second longest bridge, Pont Vasco da Gama, that stretches 12 kilometers and 345 meters across the Tagus River. If you're into octopi and puffing birds, the Oceanarium, also located in Parque dos Nações, is worth a visit, especially if you're bringing kids. The ambience is super nice, and there is a good flow of interesting things to see, making the whole experience exciting.
On your way back from the Oceanarium, make a stop in the neighborhood of Mavila, which is a hub for artists and creative souls. You have this huge warehouse of vintage furniture, numerous artisanal beer breweries and cute restaurants. We love this neighborhood. In our old neighborhood Saldanha that we dearly miss, you should consider going for a long walk. Actually, just get lost here. It's the best representation of the local big city Lisbon life. You don't have a lot of tourists here, so it's a nice change of pace, as the amount of tourists in the inner circle of Lisbon can get a bit overwhelming at times. Speaking of overwhelming, go see the Carmo convent. It was ruined by the 1755 earthquake, but you still have remnants of all its glory and beauty. Built in 1389, it was Lisbon's most iconic medieval building for centuries, and probably still is.
Right next to the Carmo convent, you have the Carmo Square, which is one of our personal favorites. It's such a nice place to hang out for a drink and a bite of food, although we don't recommend any particular restaurant here. Sometimes it's okay to sacrifice a little bit of the food experience when the location is so epic. If you're the type of human that loves quality ice cream, you have Santini Gelatos Artesanais just around the corner. There really is nothing like high quality ice cream. The neighborhood of Alfama is where we truly fell in love with Lisbon. It's a maze of cute and narrow alleys with so much beauty and quirky houses to look at, along with the old ladies that make you love the area even more. These ladies also serve their homemade ginginha, usually for €1 a cup. It's a cherry liquor that gives you a warm buzz.
Speaking of buzz, make sure you get a true Portuguese lunch experience at one of the little cozy Alfama restaurants, where we especially recommend Taberna Sal Grosso. As we might as well continue the happy buzz, let's explore some more of the food scene. After all, that is one of the big reasons you come to Lisbon. Lisbon is not booming with amazing Mexican food, but here at this restaurant you get amazing fusion Mexican and Japanese food, and this is incredible. Right here we have a sashimi aguachile.
I just had a bite, and this is literally 50-50 Mexico, Japan. It's so unbelievable.
We actually just got back from Mexico, so I feel like our taste buds still knows Mexico, you know.
What is a good taco? Can you get it in Lisbon?
It's better than Mexico.
Belcanto is the OG of fine dine restaurants in Portugal, being the first to receive 2 Michelin stars. As of 2023, it's ranked the 25th best restaurant in the world. It's run by star chef and good friend José Avilés. We admire his work, which is why we also have to recommend his newest restaurant, Encanto, that just received its first Michelin star. It's a culinary journey where each course is a marvel of gastronomic creativity. It's all vegetarian food, which means you will feel light but full even after the 14 or however many courses we had. If fine dine experiences aren't for you, head over to Green Street, which is one of Lisbon's coziest streets. Here you can pick and choose between amazing restaurants, where our favorite is Pastanaga.
For seafood lovers with a shellfish fetish, Ramiro is a must visit. Although not super cheap and usually very busy, it should be rated PG-13, as some of these plates are simply too hot to handle. Get a bunch of clams, king prawns and a juicy lobster, even if your wallet doesn't allow it. If all you want in life is a burger, you should run to Dallas Burger and get yourself perhaps the greatest burger in the world. We don't say this lightly, but it's up there. Italian is a pretty big deal here in Lisbon, and for the best Italian food you have to go to Il Basilico. This is our absolute favorite Italian restaurant. It's so freaking good.
The ingredients here are high quality, and then they have such a big variety of Italian food, like you have green, red, black pizza. They have ossobuco. They have a lot of more niche Italian dishes, and that's why this is one of our favorite restaurants when it comes to Italian food in Lisbon.
If you're vegan and you still want to try all the delicious traditional Portuguese food, there are actually an option right here at 26 Vegano, where you can have sardines, choco frito and all the other normally animal dishes, but completely vegan without letting down the flavor of the traditional Portuguese kitchen.
This is choco frito, and it's made out of mushroom, and it tastes exactly like that. I can't believe it. And then you have vegan sardines. Sorcery. This is really like the true Fantasynia experience. Wow.
Yard of Greens is another vegan-friendly spot that is more chill and affordable. There's a nice outdoor area in the back where you can kick back and relax. It's a great place for brunch, and the coffee is excellent here. If you are a true brunch aficionado with a good bank balance, you must experience the extravagant weekend brunch at the Four Seasons Ritz Hotel. It's overload hedonism, and we're still saving up for this experience.
Taking a break from the food scene once again, head out on a day trip to Ericeira, which is a coastal beach town with surfer vibes and great seafood. It's usually noticeably colder than Lisbon, so make sure to go on a warm day if you want to take advantage of the beaches. On your way back, enjoy the sunset while sipping cocktails at Asenhas do Mar. It's such a magical spot, but again, make sure to do it on a warm and sunny day. Worst case, there is a great seafood restaurant on the actual beach where you sit inside. Here you can visit all year round. Arabida Nature Park, 35 minutes south of Lisbon, is another day trip that should be on your list, provided you have enough time. Whether you want beautiful beaches, stunning hiking trails, or quality seafood, most come here for the beaches, and for good reason, as they are some of the best in all of Portugal. Both cities of Setúbal and Sesimbra are also worth visiting.
Back in Lisbon, there's a very special restaurant that is kind of bucket list material. It's called Ponto Final, where you basically sit on the water while eating seafood and admire the bridge. You have to book a table well in advance and make sure to time it so you get to enjoy the sunset. And in case you aren't able to get a table there, hang out by the pier of Cais do Sodré, where you can also enjoy the sunset and usually some vibin' live music. Speaking of vibin', Miradouro de Santa Catarina is likely the greatest view spot of Lisbon. It was recently renovated and now it's an amazing hangout spot where people bring their own wine and beer while enjoying the views and sunset. sunset.
Lisbon is a palace of excitement. The amount of beautiful streets is just ridiculous. But if you have to pick, Rua da Bica de Duarte Belo is one of the most stunning streets you'll find. While you're here, go get some tasty empanadas. Rua Portuguese de São Bento is another one of our favorite streets. It's filled with small quirky shops, but what really makes it special is that you get the true Lisbon vibe here. You feel like you just can't get more in the middle of the city. At the classy and elegant restaurant of Café de São Bento, you also feel like you're in the epicenter of cool, old-school Lisbon. This is a speak-easy restaurant where you have to knock on the door to get in. The food is similar to Pabe we mentioned earlier, with the same high regard for service and quality ingredients. An experience in Lisbon that is perhaps a little less classy, but a lot of fun. Is watching a football match between the three top teams of Portugal, Benfica, Porto and Sporting. We've been to most of these matches over the last 4 years, and it's just amazing to experience the atmosphere and passion right from the players to the last fan in the nosebleed section. It's difficult to get tickets, so your best bet is buying on Viagogo, although it's gonna cost you. Are you ready for some mini golf?
I'm so ready. I just have to get drunk because golfing is not my strong side.
What the fuck is...
From Cais do Sodré, you can take the ferry bus across the river to Casilhas, which is a quaint little neighborhood that shows you a more raw and authentic side of Lisbon, as it hasn't been truly gentrified yet. Consider having lunch at the main street, where you have a lot of nice seafood restaurants. A return ticket is €3.30. Not far from the not so pretty but pretty exclusive Amoedo shopping mall, you find an amazing Italian restaurant called Il Mercato. It's located in a peaceful courtyard with greenery and a true Italian menu to die for. Both the carbonara and truffle pasta are like taking a time machine back to the Rome we fell in love with in 2018. Oh, and make sure you get the tiramisu for dessert. Although we did include the South Shores Castle in our video about rip-offs to avoid in Lisbon, we're still gonna include it here. Why? Because it is a quite nice experience. The view is amazing and the castle is so well maintained it's hard to believe it's that old. The only two downsides are the long line to enter and the absurd €16 per person entrance fee. But that's the life of a tourist.
From the very castle of South Shores, you can see the huge Cristo Rei statue. Regardless of your religious orientation, there is something majestic about this structure. Getting there is not the easiest, as you either have to walk from Casilhas along the beautiful promenade or simply take an Uber. Either way, you will be rewarded with stunning vistas, whether it's Christ himself, the bridge, or the city of Lisbon. The last couple of years, Lisbon has seen an influx of any international kitchen you can imagine. One of our personal favorites is Bauhaus. You would have to be insane not to love Baus, and here you get the real deal. Last time we were in Lisbon, we ate here 4 times in less than 2 weeks. Oh, and don't forget the popcorn chicken. Another example of these international kitchens is the Korean restaurant Sochupocha. Yes, they do play K-pop on the screens, but the food is so good you won't even notice it. The chef is proper Korean, which means the food is also proper Korean. We truly felt like we were in South Korea as we embarked on all these delicacies we have never tried before. Go for dinner here as it's very quiet during lunchtime.
In the neighborhood of Baixa, you find one of Lisbon's best Portuguese joints. It's called Stroll and the food is absolutely amazing. It's very laid back and almost like a cafeteria, where they have a wide array of Portuguese delicacies from around the country. If you love breakfast, this is the place to come, but you can also make it an early lunch. No matter what, you need to get the caramel croissant and the Azorian cheese sandwich, but anything on the menu will go down smoothly. Although we rarely do brunch, we are aware that it's not a dead concept by any means. Our favorite brunch spot in Lisbon is Seagull Method. We have been over 20 times and somehow they're capable of always maintaining a high level. There are many epic viewpoints in Lisbon, but one you can't and probably won't miss is the Miradouro de São Pedro de Alcântara. I know, long name, but you'll want to sit here for even longer. There are usually talented street artists playing, where we like to sit at this kiosk where service is rarely good and drinks are heavily overpriced. But it doesn't matter because it's such a beautiful spot.
Less than 300 meters away, you find one of Lisbon's most picturesque streets called Calçada do Duque. Here you find loads of restaurants, and although most of them are tourist traps, you have great ones like Oficina do Duque, where great food, good vibes and stunning views come together like a rainbow. Lisbon doesn't have a ton of parks and gardens, but you still have them. Lisbon. One of the most unique places to enjoy the city nature of Lisbon is in Monsanto Forest. You can walk here, but it's probably better to grab an Uber where you set the destination to Panoramico de Monsanto. This is an abandoned high-end restaurant that offers epic and not surprisingly panoramic views of the entire city. One of the nicest recent additions to Lisbon is the promenade at Doca da Marinha. It used to be a mess here with abandoned buildings, but now it's one of our favorite hangout spots as you have numerous bars to order drinks from. I mean, when you have the sun in your face, a little glass of white wine, life is pretty good. Lisbon has a lot of wonderful rooftop bars. We could mention a good handful, but in addition to Lumi Rooftop, all you really need is the outdoor seating area at Rocio Gastro Bar. Yes, it's pricey and service is not always great, but it's a magical spot to spend time with family, friends and loved ones.
Take a train to Sintra from Rocio Square in the central Lisbon. Sintra is perhaps the closest you get to a true fairy tale world. However, only if you remove all the tourists. And even though you can't ask them all to leave, you will still appreciate Sintra for what it is. It's so beautiful and idyllic that you can't help romanticizing about what it would be like to live here in one of the many palaces. Fado is a big deal in Lisbon. It's deeply ingrained in the Portuguese culture, and even though it's very melancholic and at times over the top, there is something beautiful about it. It's definitely not for everyone, but well worth experiencing at least one time. The trick is to avoid Fado tourist trips, which you can do by booking a table at Fado Aucamo, but do it well in advance as this is the best place in town. It's a little bit embarrassing, but we have never been inside the Jerónimos Monastery. Nonetheless, we know many who have, and they are all blown away by the beauty you find here. It's from the 1500s, which was also where the great Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama set out on his first journey.
Lisbon is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, so why not enjoy its majesty from a helicopter's perspective? We have yet to do it, but it doesn't take much imagination to understand how cool of an experience it is. At €149 per person, it's also quite affordable. Although the word is slowly getting out, most people aren't aware just how good Portuguese wine is, which is why you should consider joining a food and wine tour. This is also a great way to meet like-minded people. If you're into high-end shopping, it's worth going to El Corte Inglés. Yes, this has nothing to do with Lisbon, but sometimes the credit card is itching to spend, and here you'll find all your favorite brands, and when you're sufficiently exhausted from the shopping spree, you can dine at one of the many restaurants on the top floor. Perhaps the most raw beach experience near Lisbon can be found at Praia da Ursa. There are no bars or restaurants here, so make sure to bring snacks and beverages, but most importantly, good shoes, as you will have to walk down the trail to get there. Sometimes the water can be rough, but it's generally well suited for a quick dip.
We have already shared a number of day trips you can do from Lisbon, but if you want to see more of the Portugal you didn't know, we recommend renting a car and go for a drive to Évora, which is a 90-minute drive that takes you to the east of Portugal, not far from the Spanish border. This is such a beautiful city where you find some of our favorite Portuguese restaurants, including Botequim da Moraria and Dom Joaquim. And if you have enough time, go for wine tasting at Fita Preta Vinhos. In our old neighborhood of Ajuda, you have the beautiful Ajuda Botanical Garden, where you usually won't find any tourists. Not only is the neighborhood worth a stroll, but this garden is a wonderful way to experience the lesser-known Lisbon with stunning views and green lushness. Before moving to Portugal, we had never heard of picanha, and as it turns out, it's one of the greatest meat experiences in existence. Although the concept is Brazilian, it can be found all over Portugal. For €20, you can eat picanha until you overdose on proteins. Green means go, and red means chill out, dude. We usually go to Fogo de Chao.
Finally, and most importantly, don't rush around Lisbon like a helium balloon on the loose. Lisbon is not going anywhere, and if you fall in love with the city as much as we did, you will most definitely return, where you can then cross off more of all these wonderful things to see, do, and eat. Enjoy. Use our code Lisbon to get 30% off, and you can scan the QR code right here or find the link down below.